Hello and welcome to the Waltham Forest Early Years Training for the Characteristics of Effective Learning, delivered in partnership with Little Learners Nursery Group. The characteristics of effective learning are fundamental to every child as a lifelong learner. It is our responsibility as early years practitioners to support the development of these skills during these crucial formative years. Research has shown that it is these skills that make a difference to children's long-term outcomes and to their ability to become happy, resourceful and resilient adults. So the intention of today's training: to know what the characteristics of effective learning are in greater detail and understand why they are so important, to consider how they are promoted, to think about activities for children which will support us in promoting and providing for the characteristics of effective learning. Pause the presentation and take a few moments to think about the last time that you learned something new. Was this learning experience positive? What was the learning process? What helped? What obstacles were there? Discuss this with your colleagues or take some time to reflect. Children need motivation to learn. Motivation is more important than intelligence and is the key to success for children and adults. Think of the characteristics of effective learning as instilling motivation to not only succeed in early years, but to also become lifelong learners. Integrating the characteristics of effective learning in a setting is about how we, as practitioners, provide an environment which ensures these different types of learning occur. When the characteristics are present, solid learning is taking place. Without the characteristics of effective learning, the children will not develop in the areas of learning. Therefore, the characteristics of effective learning are not only statutory, they are essential. The characteristics of effective learning and the prime and specific areas of learning and development are all interconnected. The characteristics focus on how children learn rather than what they learn. This distinction is important as it highlights the process of learning for young children. The characteristics are split into three main areas: engagement, where we look at playing and exploring; motivation, which centres around active learning; and thinking, creative and critical thinking. Children will learn more skills and knowledge when they are engaged in what they are doing. So the first question you and your team should be asking is this child engaged in their activity, their learning and their play? Let's look more closely at playing and exploring. Within this characteristic, we would like children to show curiosity about objects, events and people, to use their senses to explore the world around them, to engage in open-ended activities, to show particular interests. We would like children to pretend objects are things that they know, to act out their experiences when they play, to take on a role when they play, and to act out their experiences with other people. We would also like children to be willing to have a go, to initiate activities, to seek out things that will challenge them, and to show a can-do attitude. We would also like children to enjoy taking risks, to try new things, and to learn by trial and error. Let's look a little deeper and think about why the characteristic of playing and exploring is so important. Through play, children rehearse skills needed for life. It stimulates nerve growth, it shapes the brain. When children play, they are learning at the highest level. Play underpins the EYSS. It also underpins learning and all aspects of children's development. Through play, children develop language skills, their emotions, creativity, social and intellectual skills. For most children, their play is natural and spontaneous, although we have to remember that some children may need extra help from adults. Play can take place indoors or outdoors, and it is in these different environments that children explore and discover their immediate world. It is here that they practice new ideas and skills, they take risks, show imagination, and solve problems on their own or with others. The role that adults have is crucial. Adults provide time and space and appropriate resources. They observe play and join in when invited, watching and listening before intervening. They value play and provide safe and challenging environments that support and extend learning and development. Playing and exploring. What practitioners can do to support this characteristic? The most important thing that we can do is to simply play with our children. Encourage them to explore and show your own interest in discovering new things. Remember, help children as needed to do what they are trying to do, but don't take over and don't over-direct. Be sensitive when you join in with play and try to fit in with the children's ideas. Modelling, pretending that an object is something else, and help develop roles and stories. Encourage children to try new activities and to judge risks for themselves. Be sure to support children's confidence with your words, your body language, and visual support and modelling. Pay attention to how children engage in activities, the challenges faced, the effort, the thought, the learning and the enjoyment. Talk more about the process than products. Comment and keenly observe. Talk about how you and the children get better at things through effort and practice, and what we can all learn when things go wrong. It's also important to acknowledge that some children may need some structured, directed teaching prior to being able to independently play with and explore resources. Playing and exploring, what practitioners can provide to support this characteristic. We need to provide stimulating resources which are accessible and open-ended so they can be used, moved and combined in a variety of ways. Make sure the resources that you provide are relevant to children's interests and to their level of development. Arrange accessible, flexible indoor and outdoor space and resources where children can explore, they can build, they can move and role play. Help children concentrate by ensuring their comfort, limit noise in the setting and make spaces visually calm and orderly. Plan first-hand experiences and challenges appropriate to the development of the children. Ensure children have uninterrupted time to play and explore, and provide appropriate supportive equipment to enable access to exploratory play. Children will learn more skills and knowledge when they are motivated to take part in the activity or complete the challenge set. So the second question you and your team should be asking is the child motivated to learn, to play and to take an active part? Let's look at the second characteristic of active learning. Here we would like children to be involved and to concentrate. So here we want children to concentrate on an activity for a period of time, to show high levels of energy and fascination, to not be easily distracted, and to pay attention to the details. We want children to stick with an activity even when challenges arise, to believe that if they keep on trying or change what they're doing, it will eventually pay off, and to be able to bounce back after difficulties. We want them to be pleased when they meet their goals and to be proud of how they've accomplished something, not just the end result. And we want them to enjoy meeting challenges, not just as a way of getting praise. Active learning. Let's look a little bit deeper. Motivation, being involved and concentrating. Deep level learning happens when a child wants to explore something new with the goal of making sense of the experience. Children get real satisfaction from setting their own goals. We can help by focusing on process rather than product and building on children's interests and fascinations. Motivation, keeping on trying. We can help develop this by giving children the opportunity to struggle. Don't step in too early. Provide emotional support to children whilst encouraging children to achieve their own goals and reflect on their successes. Motivation, enjoying what they're set out to do. The role of praise in motivation. Too many rewards and too much general praise makes children feel compelled to perform for adults, and it reduces their learning power. Continuously telling a child they are good or clever leads to a fixed mindset and makes them risk averse. Instead, we need to give specific praise that includes clear feedback on the quality of engagement, the problem-solving skills, their ideas and their concentration, and then give occasional and unexpected external rewards. So what can practitioners do to support this characteristic of effective learning? Firstly, we can support children to choose their own activities. Then we can stimulate children's interest through shared attention and calm overstimulated children. We can recognise and respond to different learning styles and help children to become aware of their own goals, to make plans and to review their own progress and successes. We need to describe what we see them doing and encourage children to talk about their own processes and successes using their preferred mode of communication or by providing a suitable narrative. Be specific when you praise, especially noting effort such as how the children concentrate, how they try different approaches, whether they persist, how they solve problems, and whether they have new ideas. Encourage children to learn together and from one another. Children develop their own motivations when you give reasons to talk about learning rather than just directing. What practitioners can provide to support this characteristic? Children will become more deeply involved when you provide something that is new and unusual for them to explore, especially when it's linked to their interests. Notice what arouses children's curiosity, looking for signs of deep involvement to identify learning that is intrinsically motivated. Ensure your children have the time and freedom to become really involved in activities. Children can maintain focus on things that interest them over a period of time, so help them to keep their ideas in mind by talking over or showing photographs of their previous learning activities. Revisit experiences from areas of interest and keep significant activities out instead of routinely tidying them away, and make space and time for all children to contribute. Children need to think for themselves and critically in order to learn and develop and become more active learners. So the final question you and your team should be asking is this child creating and thinking for themselves in a critical manner? This characteristic involves children having their own ideas. So we want children to be able to think for themselves, to generate their own ideas, to think of ways to solve problems, and to find new ways to do things. We also want children to make links. We want them to notice patterns in their experience, to be able to make predictions, to test their ideas, and to develop ideas of grouping, sequencing, cause and effect. We want children to choose how to approach a task and to solve a problem and to reach a goal. We want them to check how well their activity is going and to change their approach or strategy when needed. And lastly, we want children to be able to review how well their approach worked. So what practitioners can do to support this characteristic of effective learning? We want to use the language of thinking and learning. So we need to use vocabulary such as think, know, remember, forget, idea, make sense, plan, learn, find out, confused, figure out, trying to do. Modify the use of language and vocabulary to match children's needs and level of understanding. But model being a thinker. Show that you don't always know and that you are curious and sometimes you're puzzled and you can think and you can find out. Encourage open-ended thinking by not settling on the first idea. What else could be possible? Always respect children's efforts and ideas so that they feel safe to take a risk with a new idea. Talking aloud really helps children to think and to control what they do. Model that self-talk. Describe your actions in your play. Give children time to process talk and to think and use preferred modes of communication. Value their questions, value their talk, their vocalisations and their signs, and many possible other responses they may have, without rushing towards answers too quickly. Remember to support children's interests over time, reminding them of previous approaches and encouraging them to make connections between their experiences. Model the creative process, show your thinking and some of the many possible ways forward. Sustained shared thinking helps children to explore ideas and to make links. Follow the children's lead in conversations and actions and responses and think about these things together. Encourage children to describe and share problems they encounter and to suggest ways to solve the problem. Show and talk, communicate about strategies, how you do things, including problem solving, thinking and learning. Give feedback and help children to review their own progress and learning. Talk with children about what they are doing, how they plan to do it, what worked well and what they could change next time. And remember to model that plan, do and review process yourself. So what can we provide to support this characteristic? So when you're planning activities, ask yourself, is this an opportunity for children to find their own ways to represent and own ways to develop their ideas? Avoid children just reproducing someone else's ideas. Build in opportunities for children to play with materials before using them in planned tasks. Remember, play is a key opportunity for children to think creatively and flexibly, to solve problems and to link ideas. Establish these enabling conditions for rich play. So think about space, time, flexible resources, choice, control, warm and supportive relationships. Recognisable and predictable routines can help children predict and make connections in their experiences. Routines can be flexible, but make sure they're basically still ordered. Plan linked experiences that follow the ideas children are really thinking about. Use mind maps or visual resources to represent that thinking together. And develop a learning community which focuses on how and not just what we are doing. Here's a task. Watch the following clip and note down or discuss with your colleagues the different characteristics of effective learning that you saw present. Now let's take some time to look at practical activities that will promote and provide for the characteristics of effective learning. The first most important thing that we can provide is a high quality learning environment. The environment is often referred to as the third teacher. With the right environment, children can learn completely independently. Hence, practitioners need to provide a rich, inquisitive environment to spark the children's natural curiosity. The environment needs to be exciting to enable children to play and explore. You can find a wealth of great information at the link given, the Waltham Forest training on enabling environments. Develop the home corner and create different role play areas such as market stalls, corner shops, vets, schools, cafes. All of these will allow different children to play with what they know. All children have different experiences and children all have a variety of different home cultures, so try to explore all of these at some point in the home corner or role play area. Another way we can promote and provide for the characteristics of effective learning is through the use of natural resources and loose parts play. These resources are really stimulating and can be accessible and open-ended. Some good ideas are using plastic crates from supermarket deliveries, plastic milk bottles from the school milk scheme, cardboard boxes, shredded paper, old envelopes from the school office, junk materials that can be requested from parents in your weekly newsletter, locating your local scrap project, looking for large cardboard tubes from material shops, and remember you can collect free tyres from mechanics. When resourcing your outdoor area, consider spending your budget on loose parts from B&Q or charity shops and garden centres rather than from educational suppliers, which can be really quite expensive. It's always useful to appeal to school parents. They may have old pots and pans that they can donate, maybe bricks or pieces of wood that they've used for some home DIY. So really important to get parents involved in donations. Again, you can visit your local builders' yards and shops to see what they have. Remember to source those tyres from the mechanics, visit the scrap projects, and we always visit the local woodlands. Here you'll be able to find logs and twigs and nuts and all sorts for the children to play with. And keep your eyes peeled on the walk to and from your school or nursery, as there are all sorts of treasures to be found on the side of the road. Another way we can promote the characteristics of effective learning is through the use of heuristic objects. These are really great for allowing younger children to explore and play with what they know. For example, they might use a basket as a hat. This process allows children to explore what they already know, such as a hat is a round bowl type shape, and then they can learn further by exploring about the characteristics of that object and what defines them. Other things that you can set up to promote the characteristics are investigation stations, curiosity cubes, and observation areas, such as those given in the example pictures. Investigation stations and observation stations are really good at encouraging exploration, at promoting testing, trial and error, and to encourage the children to make predictions. And observation cubes are great to encourage curiosity, observation skills, and use of senses. Another way we can promote the characteristics is through providing open-ended challenges and problem-solving activities. Have a good look at the pictures. These are just some examples. If you go onto Pinterest and type in open-ended challenges or problem solvings in the early years, there will be a wealth of examples for you to choose from. Many of these kind of mathematical or construction-based activities are really good at promoting the characteristics of effective learning, and particularly the creating and thinking critically one. They are designed to help children to test their ideas about space, shapes and sizes, and to find new ways to do things, to make links and to change strategy if needed. They offer you plenty of opportunities to ask children to review the approach that has worked for them and to try something differently next time. For example, how can we get the gingerbread man across the river without him getting wet? Or how can we rescue the animals trapped in the ice? Or which material is best for building the Billy Goat's bridge? Another way that we can promote the characteristics is through the use of open-ended craft activities. Children should be given a variety of resources so that they may self-select and use their imaginations in their craft work. Open-ended craft activities are an excellent way to help children to express themselves and use their imagination. For children, creativity is about the process and not always the end product that counts. Often when we plan for play activities, we have a set goal in mind that we wish the children to gain from the activity. However, children will often take the activity to another level by adding their own imaginative processes in sometimes, in ways that perhaps we had not intended. And this is really, really good. This shows that they are becoming independent and imaginative, and they should be encouraged to do this where possible. Risky play is a really, really important way of promoting and providing for the characteristics. If you as an adult do not support and direct this learning, then children will not gain the skills and knowledge they need to be able to take them through the many hazards and obstacles in life. The nursery environment is one of the best places for children to learn to take calculated risks and to learn about their own risk management. This doesn't mean that you ask a child to complete a risk assessment before each activity, but it does mean that you as an adult should support children to think about challenging themselves and to assess the possible risk involved. For example, going higher on the climbing frame or using scissors without supervision. Remember, some children will need their confidence and self-esteem supported so that they will be able to take these risks for themselves. Remember to look at your own body language too. If you look scared that a child is climbing higher on their own, the child is very likely to pick up on this and to doubt their own ability to take risks. So, another thing that's really important is to encourage children to think about what might be instead of what is. And here are a list of some really helpful questions that you could use when supporting children's play and learning. What does that remind you of? What do you think might happen next? What do you like or not like about this? Why? Is there another way? How could we? What might happen if? What do you do if? And what do you think? Okay, so now it's over to you. And here are some things that you might like to consider. So, first of all, how do you currently use the characteristics of effective learning? Do you consider them as part of your observation processes? Do you use them to reflect on the effectiveness of your learning environment? Does your senior leadership team use the characteristics as part of lesson observations? In pupil progress meetings, are the characteristics used as a way of evaluating progress? And are the characteristics used to reflect on the transition process to Key Stage 1 and beyond? You might like to create an action plan of your next steps linked to the characteristics of effective learning. Or you might like to have a go with the activity that we've described above. Maybe you can draw a simple plan of your classroom and discuss with your early years team which areas you consider to be hot spots for the characteristics and which spaces are cold spots. It might be, for example, that the workshop area has a high number of possibilities and that as a team you agree that children show high levels of engagement, problem solving and exploration in this area. The characteristics of effective learning can also be used to identify where such opportunities might be missing. So, for example, do you feel confident that effective learning is happening in other areas? Can you observe high levels of involvement? Are children making connections between experiences? Are staff valuing resilience and a high degree of exploration? If not, why not? Are there a high number of possibilities? Do children know what can be done with the resources in that area? Are there lots of resources or lots of learning possibilities? One doesn't necessarily need to lead to the other. All the discussions that flow from reflecting on our environment in this way are also a great way to support staff development within your team. I'd like to thank you for listening to this training, and I hope that you found it useful.